It's gonna be one of these nights. Well, I don't know how much we're actually going to get done, but I'll keep playing until the next person calls. That's the problem with being on call, and not being able to do this as a full-time job. Is that work gets in the way. I'll see. The ball in my hand hits the table with more force than necessary. As much as I trust my friends, there are some things I'd rather keep to myself.
Morning, Bella. Did you sleep well?
She answers the question with a long, drawn-out yawn, one reminiscent of a child. A chuckle manages to come out of my mouth at the sight. In this manner, it's easy to mistake her for someone too young for responsibilities. Inexperienced and immature, even. Easy to forget that she was thrust into the role of an adult earlier than her own dreams can afford, to overlook how surprisingly observant she can be at times. Maybe not on the same level as Ash exercises for his investigations, or Rebecca needs for her own work, but it's certainly enough to deftly put what she sees around her on canvas. And if the way her eyes flickers to the table and my hand says something, it is that I won't be able to avoid the question this time.
Only a little. I don't remember how I ended up on the bed, though.
Ma doing? You didn't look very comfortable sleeping on the couch, all hunched up like that.
It would have been enough for something temporary. Sorry I stole your bed.
Hey, it doesn't matter. Besides, what kind of gentleman would I be if I leave a lady sleeping in such uncomfortable conditions? Not in this house. My Nana will give me a tough scolding if I ever did that, I'm telling you.
Thanks a lot, Zach. I know I barged in at a very inconvenient time last night. I wasn't really thinking when I did, and...
Hey, it's cool, Bella. I ain't mad at you. That's what friends do. You guys are welcome here anytime. Although Ashton abuses the anytime part a lot, I don't really mind. We might have less wiggle room if all four of us are present, considering the size of this place. But as long as no one makes anything explode, it's totally fine.
Fine or not, I still owe you one for last night's trouble, especially since you don't seem to be...
A concerned expression passes over her features as she spares another cursory glance over at the table, back to the bottle holding every small piece of what keeps the bad memories at bay. The blood blooming over Pa's heart, the horrified look on Ma's face as she watches him fall lifeless to the ground, and every ounce of spite seeping from the stranger's smile. You don't belong here. You monkeys don't belong here. It never stops, doesn't it?
Well, you don't seem to be feeling well. Let me know, okay? I'll make it up to you somehow.
She makes a slight gesture with her head towards the bottle, asking a question without really asking. Subtlety has never been one of her greatest assets, but right now even Ash would have been a little amazed, if not at a loss for words at that. She has left it up to me whenever I'll ever give her the response she wants to hear or not. A little clever coming from her, if anyone would ask me. Well, none of that, the last two sentences made any sense to me. Play it off, tell her. I'll just tell her the truth, why not? She's my friend, right? Nosy friend. But it's never easy, ain't it? Talking about my own problems, that is. It will never be, not by a long shot. Not when I've let it stay this way for so long. I realized that long ago, when the wounds are so fresh and the dreams are a nightly occurrence. Can't force yourself to get better or move on to better things. It is what's normal now, and I can only cope. The question in her eyes may be unwarranted, born simply out of curiosity and sincere concern for a friend. I don't owe her an explanation, in fact. But of all the people I kept close in my life, she's probably one of the few who perhaps I can trust with this. Maybe she won't understand entirely. I can never hope she will. No, never to the full extent. That alone is expecting too much of her, and giving too much of what I can. However, for all her shortcomings, I know she'll hear me out. And that's all I can ask of her.
My bad. I was kind of hoping you wouldn't have seen me with these.
The pills rattle lightly against the container when I gently set it back to its usual place. Always the small area closest to my laptop, near the right hand. Within reach whenever, and a quiet reminder of what I shouldn't miss every day.
What? Oh, is it bad? I was just thinking that maybe it's a cold like Becca's. Do you need me to get anything from the store? Soup or something? There's one nearby, right? I can run real quick and...
No, nothing of that sort. I'm perfectly healthy right now. It's really difficult to say, but can you promise me you'll listen at least?
What is this about, Zach?
I should have been upfront with you about this a long time ago. Well, Ashton found out without me telling him anything. But you already know how that guy is. Can't hide anything from him.
If it's something you're having trouble saying, you don't have to force yourself to tell me. I'll forget I ever saw anything and won't ask questions. Promise.
No, I need to get this off my chest eventually. Besides, we're already here. Might as well finish what I started, yeah?
If you say so.
She takes a seat on the couch, her posture easy and open, and her smile honest, as if this is just a simple talk between two friends on a regular day. It is far from one, but her unreserved air is enough to stamp down the twinge of unease that threatens to come up.
Let's hear it then.
And she does. True to her word, she listens while the story spills out of her mouth of my ma and pa, that little old diner across the pond, and what it left me in that day. I can't recall most of it now, my own account jagged with a few missing details here and there. The passing years have eroded most of my recollection of the whole incident. All except for that one moment in the kitchen. The ringing of gunshots are as vivid as it sounded that day. Even Ma's hysterical screams the moment Pa's body hits the floor motionless, his lifeblood flowing out from under him. And the gunman, he was smiling. He was smiling when Pa opened the door to welcome him. He was smiling when he put a bullet to Pa's chest and Ma's head. I've heard stories of how the world can be a cruel place for people like us before. I never believed until that moment.
Nan and Gran took us right after that. Sis and I flew straight to New Jersey as soon as they heard the news. A few days after, Ma and Pa were laid to rest. And we have a new home a continent away. I didn't even get the chance to take my favorite pillow with me. They said something about the change of environment will be good for us. They had no idea the different kind of ghosts would follow me here.
I expected questions, mostly those brimming like childlike curiosity, and maybe some that are a little too hard to answer. But to her credit, she just sat there, lent her ears, and looked at me with no expectations or unnecessary judgment in her eyes. She appeared wiser and older like this, easier to see the breadwinner in her. Her younger siblings are lucky to have her. When I'm done, after everything's been said, she wraps her arms around me. A bit awkward, considering the gap in our heights, but it gets her sentiment across. But it's difficult to answer this in kind, if I am even supposed to reciprocate the gesture given my earlier apprehension. She pulls away shortly with a smile on her face. Not the reaction I braced myself for, but it's obviously better than what I imagined.
Are you not gonna say anything?
Am I supposed to say anything after? Like, apologize or something? I don't think that's very appropriate, but if you want to hear one, I can think of something real quick.
Not really. Other people have something to say after usually. And they're not necessarily nice either.
Oh? Okay then. I won't. I can't think of something anyway. Sorry. I'm not very good with this. Who else knows, by the way?
My older sister, grandparents, and just Ash and you for now. Maybe I think I should tell Rebecca too, but...
But not right now?
Yeah, not right now. When I'm ready.
I'm sure she'll be willing to hear you out once you do.
I don't doubt she will. I'm more afraid of how she'll react after. One step at a time, yeah? Whew! Surprisingly, it feels good to get that one out of my chest. I was a little afraid you'd be angrier. I didn't tell you earlier than today.
I'm not angry. I'm just surprised. You didn't look like it. I wouldn't have suspected. I suppose that's how it often is, isn't it? We all have our... what's the word Becca uses? Inner demons? But this is something personal to you. I understand why you'd rather have a few people know.
That too. Well, these past few weeks haven't been easy for you. I didn't want to add that. Not after last night.
Something passes in her face, brief, fleeting, and disappears right before I can recognize what it is.
You okay?
Yep, no worries. I'll be fine. Look, about last night... Never mind. This isn't a good time. But don't lose sleep over this, alright? What's important is you got what you want to say out. And if you need me, I'll be here.
I should be relieved. Her words are more than reassuring to my ears. There should be comfort in hearing these of those alone and knowing I have another person to rely on if things ever go bad. But somehow I find myself worrying more for her instead. I'll make another attempt to get the story out of her if I can. But this is a dance I know all too well. And with her, I doubt forcing her to say something would yield any results. As much as I want to imitate Ash, there's only so much I can ask that won't result in something a little over disastrous. At best, she'll stop talking to me until a week passes. At worst, I'd rather not think about it. I've never seen her angry. Outright annoyed, maybe, and often directed at Ash, but never furious. What do they say again about the happiest people when angered? Besides, it'd be unfair to her after our little chat.
So, food then?
She seems relieved at the brisk change of subject, and as if it has been simply waiting for its cue all this time, her stomach rumbles at the mention of food. Rather loudly, as a matter of fact.
Alrighty, Missy. We're going to get some chow now. Better be quick, though. Can't have your stomach starting a revolution on us here.
Don't make fun of me. I'm not that hungry. Maybe a little. I didn't think I'd end up skipping dinner last night.
And now we have one starved stomach protesting. Sorry, it'll be nothing fancy, since I'm a little low on stocks. I should probably drop by the grocery store after the meeting this afternoon.
I can make a quick run for you if you want.
Nah, I've got enough to put together something nice here. Maybe. I could always improvise if we're missing an ingredient or two. It ain't like we're going for a Michelin 3-star status here. Also, didn't I say you're a guest? Is this a Filipino thing? Or just Rebecca rubbing off on you?
The soft laughter that comes from her doesn't quite reach her ears. Neither. The answer is neither. Because if she stays idle, she'll remember.
On second thought, I might need a little help slicing up the potatoes while I prep the ham. You up for that?
What? Do you think instant noodles are all I'm about? I'll have you know I can cook a mean paella with my eyes closed. All my siblings love it.
Sure you can. Come on. I think I know what we'll do with those spare ingredients.
Despite the massive effort to keep the mood light with small chatter, cooking ends up being a mostly quiet affair. Between us, the consistent clapping of the knife against the board and the muffled noise from the television I left running, words that become surprisingly difficult to string together. Not entirely unusual, we've had moments like this before, but definitely unnerving with how things are now. I really wish someone else would come knocking at the door. As pleasant as this is, breaking the ice or even keeping a conversation going has never been my forte. That has always been Isabella or Rebecca's department. Something Ash's, although most coming from him border on awkward or embarrassing. What was that sentence? Jesus. Speaking of the guy, he never did call back, and I'm willing to bet my entire yearly salary that he fell right back to sleep after that call.
Sorry, Bella. Could you...
Yep, I got it. The potatoes are almost ready, by the way. I turned down the heat just in case. You might want to check on them, though. Hold on, I'll be right there. Sheesh, wait up. If you keep rapping at the door like that, you'll break it down. Ash.
Oh, good. You're awake.
Ash has already welcomed himself in as I take my eyes away from the oven. He's never really been keen with the notion of courtesies after he's warmed up to you, this guy. All 13 of my locks he broke can attest to that. He's a good fellow, though. Maybe a tad bit standoffish at first, but he's trustworthy.
Don't you have work today?
I could ask the same of you. Hey, Z-Man.
You're late. Something came up? You need to drop the Z-Man. It's getting old.
Sorry, I got caught up with something at the precinct on the way here. Had to attend to that first before things got out of hand. I'd tell you about it, but you know how it can be with those kinds of things. Later, maybe.
And you're here because...
What? I'm not allowed to say hello?
I doubt you're here because of that. And you're not answering my question.
Ah, my bad. Forgot to mention that. He called earlier looking for you. Rebecca's worried because you didn't come home last night.
You could have called my cell instead.
You weren't picking up. Anyway, I'd really hate to cut this little get-together short, but I need to be somewhere else. Come on, Isabella, let's get you home. I'll drop you off on the way.
Wait, we're going now?
He lightly claps a hand on her arm and begins ushering her out of the apartment, throwing a casual wave at me as they pass. Isabella, on the other hand, doesn't appear too fond of the idea. And sure enough, before they can even cross the threshold, she puts a firm foot down, the force alone enough to halt them both and catch the taller man off guard. It would have made for a funny picture. The way Ash almost crashes into her and Isabella giving him an indignant pout over her shoulder. Surprised and confused are all on his face all at once, two things that are rarely ever graced two things that rarely ever grace it if he can help it. A rare moment even for our small group. If only I had my camera with me. Dang.
What is it?
Zach cooked something.
If it's just food, I'll get you something on the way back.
But the food! It's Zach's cooking! Real delicious food that actually tastes like food. At least stay and have a bite, please. Zach, help me here!
These two, whenever they are in the same room, sometimes it feels like herding a group of unruly kids instead of talking to two mature adults. One moment they're engaged in a pleasant chit-chat, and the next they're bickering over a minor issue. Frankly, if I didn't know any better and I have an overactive imagination, I'd say there's something going on. Never mind how utterly impossible that idea is. Or it might be just me reading too much into things like always. I can already hear Ash's laughter if I so much as suggest such. This, however... I cooked up a feast. Eat my damn food.
I don't know about you two, but I think you guys should really stay. I've already made enough food for all of us, and it'd be a waste. Why, I cooked up that special honey-glazed ham you two keep on yapping about. Got some scalloped potatoes with onions and cheddar to go with it, too.
The oven timer dings. I shoot the two of them and apologize quick before sauntering over to the kitchen, mittens in hand. The sweet smell of the glaze and salty tang of melted cheese wafts through the air as soon as I open the door and take out the two trays inside. The scent immediately fills the entire room, and even with the door and windows open, the mouth-watering aroma lingers. It's appealing enough that when I put the dishes down on the counter, another starved stomach protests loudly, followed by a burst of laughter. My head snaps up at the two of them, and I can't keep back the smile at the sight they make. Isabel is clinging to the doorframe for support, doubled over with breathless laughter. Ash is the more composed of the two, trying to look unconcerned, but a flush has crept up his neck and cheeks. It's clear whose stomachs those came from, and Isabel is not going to let him live this down.
You're in no place to reject an offer of free food, Frey.
I wasn't rejecting anything. Damn it, I just missed a meal, that's all.
Aw, he's flustered.
Shut it! Those guys at the precinct said it was urgent. Somebody has to be responsible for it.
Well, aren't you precious?
Right. You know, if you keep laughing like that, you'll burst.
I'm sure it won't be as bad as your stomach suddenly rumbling like a starved.
Aye, kiddos, play nice. Food's gonna get cold if we keep this up. Ash, you gonna stay?
Might as well, since Scaredy Cat's so hell-bent on staying.
We eventually settle down after the food has been served, the jibes replaced by another round of friendly chatter, mostly about what's going on in the news the night before. There is, however, a conscious effort to avoid mentioning what's currently on the headlines. The dead is never a good topic to talk over food in polite company. This case in particular, the wounds are too fresh, too soon. I'd likely avoid it as well if I were in her position and someone I personally knew passed away in a gruesome manner like that. Though perhaps the closest we got to broaching the topic is when the infamous mansion is brought up again. But even then, we are careful, Ash and I. We keep the conversation light and avoid bringing up her late business partner. It's the least we could do.
The Wrights? Yeah, they're planning to move in soon. In fact, they already have a housewarming party planned. It's why they wanted us to rush the papers. They wanted to send the invitations out as soon as possible.
Oh, now I get it.
Get what?
Remember what I told you last night about the new clients?
Vaguely? Sorry, I was a little out of it yesterday. Was it the photo shoot?
Yep, it's actually for the one you sold. Something. When you put it that way, I suppose it makes sense why my boss wants me to prioritize the couple. They can have those documents rushed at just a snap of their fingers. Then they're more influential than I initially thought. Man, I guess my boss is expecting a lot more from this project than I expected. Hope I can live up to it.
Your photographs are more than good enough, Zach. You'd probably win an international award if you let yourself. Ma'am Hana's easy to please, too. As long as you're good at following instructions.
Easier said than done. Different clients have different tastes, after all.
Still, a week? I don't think that's possible.
Now that you mentioned it, yeah. They wanted everything finished at the earliest. To be honest, it's not unheard of, but...
But it's still weird. Still weird, yeah?
A slip of the tongue. Still barely noticeable to someone who's already familiar with Ash's ways, yet in this moment, it's impossible to miss. I shoot him a curious glance, but he ignores it, rather pointedly.
I can't exactly say it's like that, where I'm just the middleman after all. As much as I want to comment on it, I only know what's on the surface, not the in and outs.
Okay, give me 1 second.